As we enter the holiday season, a time for family, we want to take a few minutes tonight to honor and say farewell to a longtime member of our KDKA family.
KDKA money and politics editor Jon Delano is retiring after 30 years with KDKA. I had a chance to sit down with Jon to reflect on his remarkable career. The year was 1994. Jon Delano had spent 14 years on Capitol Hill, then suddenly found himself out of work.
Frankly, I was chief of staff to a Pennsylvania congressman who lost an election.
So he decided to take his political knowledge and reinvent himself back home in Pittsburgh as a TV political analyst.
I went to all three stations and they all said no.
But just a few weeks later, KDKA acquired the Pennsylvania Poll.
And they needed someone who could go on air with Stacey Smith and talk about it.
Jon agreed, and his political analyst career was born.
Jon, when we talked this evening at 6 o'clock, we said that it appeared to be a light voter turnout. You indicated at that time that has a tendency, at least, to bode well for the incumbents. Not this time, though.
That's certainly right, Stacey. The agents of change were out there. The voters may have been small in number, but they clearly wanted a change, and tonight they voted for that.
When I think back and see some of the stuff I did back then, I was not that great. But they saw something in me, the management did.
Jon appeared frequently on the news and even traveled to national political conventions as part of our on-air coverage.
So who does take this platform seriously?
Well, you know,
I'm going to let Jon handle this one because
there's 107 pages in this platform. I guarantee you that 99% of the delegates have not read it, so it's no surprise to me at all that Senator Bob Dole has not read it. Frankly, this thing isn't worth a whole lot after today.
It was a lot of fun, and there's nothing like being at a convention.
In 2001, after 7 years as KDKA's political analyst, Jon was offered a full-time job as KDKA's money and politics editor.
I had no familiarity with doing the television stories that a journalist would be trained in doing, so I had to be trained.
Jon quickly learned the ropes and found himself interviewing politicians and newsmakers from all over the region and across the country. He's interviewed mayors.
What do you want it to be said about your first full term in office?
Well, hopefully that story about continuing the financial recovery of Pittsburgh.
In his first sit-down TV interview as mayor, Peduto said he had 4 finalists for the position.
I need somebody who can restore the bond between this city and its people.
What do you believe is your biggest accomplishment as mayor?
wow, you know, let's start with the bridge, getting the bridge up.
Governors.
I heard this on the street. Ed Rendell, just elected, look what he's going to do, raise taxes. Are you going to raise taxes in 07?
That remains to be seen.
Any possibility that you might decide not to run for re-election?
I have no intention of breaking tradition.
The rap on you is that you're a lousy politician.
I think that's probably fair.
What do you point to specifically that you've done to try to reduce the level of crime in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia?
Number one, we need to hire more police.
Presidents.
What can you tell folks in Western Pennsylvania about the status of that base? Is it going to close?
Well, I think what people can understand is that we've got enormous budget pressures.
Do you think there's more that we can do as a country to stop this, to even prevent white nationalism and the like from happening?
Yeah, and we have to stop it all. And if other countries do have problems, and somehow I don't think the problems that they have, they don't get talked about the same way.
As for the repeated charge that Biden wants to defund police?
Let's get the facts straight, number one. I not only don't want to defund police, I want to add $300 billion to their $1 million to their budget, local budgets.
And more political candidates than we can count. But don't forget, Jon was also our money guy all these years.
I've been doing Money Minutes for some time. We took a break and then we brought them back. 60 seconds of financial advice. I'm Jon Delano, and it's your money.
And for nearly 20 years, he's hosted the Sunday Business Page.
The Sunday Business Page was a full-fledged half-hour show that we ran for a number of years. So let me ask you first about why you got into this. What is it about breast cancer awareness that is so important to 84 Lumber? And we would bring business leaders from the community onto the show and talk to them about issues that are important to Pittsburgh.
Eventually, the show morphed into a shorter segment that's aired for the last few years in our Sunday morning news. Jon's also been front and center at nearly all of KDKA's political debates over the past 20 years, debates for mayor of Pittsburgh, governor of Pennsylvania, and seats in Congress. But there's one debate in particular that sticks out above the rest as the most contentious, the debate between Rick Santorum and Bob Casey for U.S. Senate in 2006.
And I show up to work.
So do I.
Last month, how many days were you in the office 9 to 5 at the Treasurer's office?
Senator?
How many days were you in the Treasurer's office 9 to 5 last month?
As much as you were in the U.S. Senate.
For some reason, the podiums were right at each other. And that allowed the candidates to really point and really get in the face of the other. I don't think we design these debates in order to get the candidates to fight each other, but you really want it to be entertaining, because most people won't watch debates unless they think something's coming out of it.
We were prepared to go and separate them if we had to.
I remember that debate very well.
I did too. It was 2006. So I have a theory, John. I think that, we just got through with a very intense political season, and you're feeling, okay, I can step away. But I think in 4 years, you're going to be thinking, I never should have retired. I enjoy it too much.
Well, there's certainly truth to that. I do enjoy the job. I've always enjoyed this. I've always believed that you should never take a job that you don't have fun at, that you're not passionate about, that you don't enjoy. I'm going to miss doing the job, but I'm going to miss the people more. Yeah. You both and so many others in this KDK family. It's really, that's the toughest part about leaving.
Well, it is such a joy to have you as part of our KDK family, and that really is what it feels like, John. And I mean, beyond you as a person, it's your expertise and these contacts. I mean, people really trust you, and they probably don't realize how much time you spend on the phone making connections, and it's really your relationships.
Well, those relationships take time, and you're absolutely right. I think part of it, I'm helped by the fact that I once worked in government for 14 years. So it's a little unusual to come from government and go into television. Usually some television stars try to run for Congress or run in government, personalities from TV. Even President Trump obviously made a name for himself on television in The Apprentice. But I came the other way. And so what that means is that the politicians, the elected officials, they sort of know that I know what they're going through. Yeah. And I think that's helped. The other thing, Christine, that's so important is that because I was a congressional staffer, I know how important the behind-the-scenes people are. Just as they are so critical at this television station, they are very critical in governmental operations, in campaigns, and you get to know those people, you have a really good entree to the top dog.
Well, KDK has absolutely been lucky to have you all these years, and we're not done looking back, all right? So don't go far, yes.
Kind of a bittersweet day here at KDKA. If you were here during our last hour, you heard that longtime KDKA money and politics editor Jon Delano is retiring.
So last hour we looked at how Jon's TV career began. Now some of the big interviews Jon landed with U.S. presidents and presidential candidates.
I've always said that I should retire when you're at the top of your game. I don't really want to continue to work and have somebody say to me, he shouldn't be on TV, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, they may say that for political reasons, but I hope they're not saying it for mental acuity reasons.
For 30 years, Jon Delano has been a fixture on KDKA-TV, first as a political analyst and for the past 23 years as KDKA's money and politics editor. And when it comes to presidential politics, Jon always seemed to score hard-to-get one-on-one interviews with both presidential candidates and sitting presidents.
We had the very first Pennsylvania interview with Barack Obama for TV in 2008, March of 2008, when he was running for president for the first time.
In all, Jon did 8 one-on-one interviews with Barack Obama.
Can you reassure Western Pennsylvanians that their guns are safe if you're elected president?
Absolutely. I am a strong believer in the Second Amendment.
Did you learn something from the Pennsylvania primary that can help you here in this state in the general election?
Just practice my bowling.
54% of Americans, according to the CBS New York Times poll that will be released later today, say that you can do something about gasoline prices. Can you?
Well, I think that, understandably, people are frustrated when gas prices are going up.
Something Obama noted during their final interview together at the White House.
And he said, John, you have the record for a local journalist in interviewing me, interviewing Obama.
Jon also had several interviews with Donald Trump.
Mr. President, Rick Saccone says he was Trump before Trump. What do you think of?
Rick Saccone said he was Trump before Trump. Rick is a great guy. I think he's going to do really well. He's a great guy. He loves this area, loves this country.
Look, I went to school here, right? I went to college in Pennsylvania. It's the good old Wharton School of Finance, and it's a great place. And
I went to Penn as well.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Well, now I know you're very smart.
He is a very affable guy.
And Joe Biden.
Are you running for President of the United States?
I am moving along as if I'm running. The question is, can I raise the kind of money that needs to be raised in today's presidential races?
What would be your advice, not just to him, but to any presidential candidate, on how to go about selecting a vice president?
Well, first of all, I don't have a lot of advice for Donald Trump. He didn't rattle me. He just disappointed me as he could go be as sort of embarrassing to the nation as he was.
He loves to tell stories, and he's a very good storyteller.
This year alone, Jon was one of only a few local journalists to get one-on-ones with both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
This has been a terrific year for me, 2024. I've had incredible opportunities.
What are some of the things you will do to make the economy better for Pennsylvanians?
Well, the big thing I'm going to do is drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill. You know, Biden has shut up your energy industry. You have a big fracking industry, and he's made it very, very tough.
Have you changed your view on fracking? And if so, why?
So let me start by saying that ad, as you described it, is absolutely a mischaracterization that I think is intended to make people afraid.
But the real reason we get these interviews, I think, is because KDKA and this region is really important politically. We get these interviews because Pennsylvania counts. And it's because the viewers they know KDKA is the #1 station, particularly politically for voters. And secondly, they know that this region is really important to winning Pennsylvania.
In 30 years, Jon says he's seen quite a change in the political climate across the country.
There's no doubt it's changed. I mean, people are so much more partisan now and so much more invested in their political positions in a way that makes them, I think, angrier, frankly, when things don't go their way or with people who disagree with them. People react in ways that I just don't recall 30 years ago when we were in this business. And I really regret that that's the tenor. I hope we can get beyond that. I'm very much an optimist. I still think there's possibilities for decency and for us to get together regardless of our political opinions.
And now, as Jon closes this chapter, he's reflecting on all who have helped him along the way.
None of us who appear on the air, that is, who are on camera, could do this work without the tremendous support, of course, of everyone behind us. And we are so dependent in this business on others that, whatever we achieve on our own over the last 30 years, I know there's so many others who are responsible.
Kind of missed the mustache, but that's just... The mustache is not retiring. The mustache is actually going to come back.
The mustache turned gray many years ago, and off it went.
So we've all seen reporters, political reporters, get crusty, cynical as their career goes on and on. That never, ever happened to you. No. You are just as upbeat, just as gung-ho today, I think, as the day you walked in here.
Yeah. Well, I love politics. I love government. I worked in government for 14 years as a congressional chief of staff. I've spent a lot of time in Washington. And of course, I've met gazillions of politicians, and 99% of them are really good and decent people. Whatever their party is, they may have particular views, but they really mean well. And I think that part of my optimism is that I think that the American people are great. This is a great country, and we have, so many good people in this country. We make mistakes politically, of course, but we've always seemed to survive them. And I'm as optimistic today as I've ever been.
We appreciate that optimism, too. And when you put all of those people and politicians that you've interviewed over the years together in a compilation like that, it makes one realize just how impressive that string has been for you.
I've been very fortunate. I am aggressive in going after these interviews, but at the same time, because Pennsylvania, as I said in that package, that story we just saw, because Pennsylvania is so important politically that if you're going to run either nationally or even in the state of Pennsylvania, you've got to care about Western Pennsylvania. And the station that attracts the most political eyeballs is KDKA-TV.
Yeah.
And so it's an easy sell for me if I can get to the right people.
KDK has been so fortunate to have you over these 3 decades. Is it possible that we haven't seen the last of you?
Well, that's up to KDKA and
Okay.
CBS.
Right.
You know, I'm more than happy to come back on occasion to do a debate with you, Ken. As you know, we've done a lot of political debates over the years. Maybe a special interview here and there.
Okay.
We'll see.
It's hard to imagine an election night at KDKA without Jon Delano here by our sides, right?
But give me the month of December off,
Yeah.
please.
Okay. Now, if Jon Delano were interviewing a politician who just gave that answer, would Jon Delano have accepted that as a final response?
Of course not.
All right.
Of course not.
John, congratulations.
Thank you,
This
Ken.
is so well
Thank
earned.
you, Kim. It's
And
been
you
great
have-
to be with you.
John, yes.
Thank you to all the viewers, too, for the confidence you've given in me. I've really appreciated it.
Okay, there is still more because John and I, we discussed so much and we have more to show you than we can fit here on the newscast. So you can watch our full conversation, a 1-hour special tomorrow morning at 11, streaming on CBS News Pittsburgh, which you can find on our website or wherever you stream KDKA. It's great stuff. Please tune in to the stream.